it's really important, and history teaches us, that if this technology is going to be developed in beneficial ways, and if the benefits of this technology are to be distributed fairly, then it really needs to be subject to greater democratic control. A humanistic approach says when we think about ethics, and ethics is ultimately about the ultimate values we want to pursue, when we think about ethics, central to our ethical understanding should be the notion of us as human beings with certain capabilities for reasoning, for emotion, for creativity, and that, in a sense, what's ultimately a value is humans being able to manifest those capabilities, to express them, to develop them in various ways. And if that's our perspective, this humanistic perspective, the question is always going to be, how does AI help or hinder us in living genuinely valuable human lives? And often when we think about tech corporations, they set as their goal creating artificial general intelligence. And artificial general intelligence would be an AI system that can replicate human capabilities across their entire spectrum. So it can do pretty much everything that humans can do that requires human intelligence. The question we should ask is, why should we want AGI? What's the benefit of creating these artificial colleagues? As opposed to another way of thinking about AI, which is not to create a rival kind of being to humans, but as tools that can enable us to better realize our capabilities. So in the workplace context, this would be, for example, tools that would give us greater information in order to be able to do our tasks more effectively, tools that would be able to take over drudge work so that we can focus on the more creative aspects and the more meaningful aspects of our jobs. And I think that is the fundamental question, really. How is it that a truly human life can be enabled by these tools? And that is what the humanistic approach is arguing for, as opposed to some other views in this space, which say something like, well, actually, we should be transhumanist. We should try to transcend our human nature, and AI and digital technology can help us do that. I think that's a mistaken path into a kind of a leap into the dark, because we are fundamentally human beings. Therefore, good technology will serve human purposes. Yes, so this is a very difficult question. It is obviously the case now that governments are, in some sense, feeling the need to produce AI regulation. It's not always clear that this regulation is necessary or is serving a valuable purpose, and it does create serious questions for businesses. I mean, just take, for example, the EU's AI Act. The AI Act is the first comprehensive or near comprehensive attempt at the regulation of AI. It doesn't include things like military applications. And it tries to calibrate the level of regulation to the level of risk. But it has, as I've written elsewhere, serious problems. There are some gaps in its human rights protection, so it doesn't really protect rights as well as you might hope. But secondly, there's a question how that instrument relates to other laws. Does it displace other laws? Does it prevent new laws from being enacted that would afford us greater protection? So this is now going to become an increasingly complex regulatory landscape, and it will add a lot of uncertainty for businesses. So how should they respond? Well, clearly it means that lawyers are going to have a field day. There's going to be real imperative to get sound legal advice, which I think is going to be highly problematic for corporations, SMEs that can't really afford that so readily. But I think another aspect then that comes into play is that the safest path is for corporations to really try to think through the ethical issues for themselves, that they shouldn't simply have the attitude that the requirements they have to meet are those embodied in the law, because the law is going to be quite fuzzy and unclear. They need to have internally a clear moral ethical compass that tells them what the right thing is that they're trying to do and how they should go about doing that thing. I think at a very general level, a number of themes I've tried to press in my public speeches. One is that we shouldn't fall prey to the illusion that how AI develops is a matter of inevitability and there's nothing that we can do about it. So the first point is we do have genuine choices here as individuals, as communities, as corporations. The second point is in making those choices, we have to understand that they're very complex, that there isn't one master value like trustworthiness or safety that will be the magic bullet that solves all these problems. There's going to be a diversity of considerations like accuracy, fairness, privacy, explainability, etc., environmental sustainability. And often there's going to be trade-offs amongst these values. So it's going to be a very complicated scene. And these values will differ according to the different domains of application. So how you navigate these values in a domain like, for example, creating a system that assists in making bail decisions is going to be different from creating a system that helps detect cancer. So we need to understand the complexity of these issues. And I think a third feature that I want to emphasize is precisely because AI has potentially really pervasive impact on human life in general, it's really important, and history teaches us, that if this technology is going to be developed in beneficial ways, and if the benefits of this technology are to be distributed fairly, then it really needs to be subject to greater democratic control. We can't simply have a small number of governments and a small number of corporations calling the shots without paying attention to the experiences and the needs of a wider democratic public. So basically, the takeaways would be this is a matter of choice, that these choices depend on values that are complex, and we really need to enhance democratic control in steering the development of these new technologies.